Hey y'all, welcome to Geek Freaks. I am Frank, and today I'm joined by Jonathan.
Well, hello.
And it's 2025, New Year. We've taken because we pre-record a lot of the Christmas stuff, it's been a few weeks, so we're kind of getting some rust off here.
Which is so nice to take a break for a little while, but it's also fun to get back into it too.
It is. But my notes are definitely not existent. We have tabs open from our website. But yeah, how was your break over the holidays?
It was great. I can't remember most of it, but I don't know if that's a good sign or not.
That's a great sign. Yeah, that means that you actually got to relax and not have to worry.
How about you?
Good. Same old thing. Played some Marvel Rivals, which we'll talk about later on with the new season. Yeah, just relaxed, and it was nice to force myself to relax and not have to work on anything. And then as soon as I come back, I'm like, all right, I'm going to start working on TikToks again, and then that gets banned. So,
all right. Oh no.
Yeah, we'll break that down too. But let's kick things off with our question of the week. So the question this week is, what series do you wish more people knew about? And I asked this over on Threads. We got a lot of responses, but I'm going to go to you first, Jonathan. What is the series?
Yeah, so I'm sure there's a lot of them if we really dug into the past, because we get so heartbroken when something doesn't continue on. The one that I think did not get almost any or enough attention is Altered Carbon.
Yeah,
I believe it was a Netflix series.
It was.
And now I've been watching For All Mankind, has the same lead actor, Joel. I had to look up his name because I had no idea. Joel Kinnaman.
Mm-hmm.
Kinnaman. Anyways, really good show where your body is replaceable. They can replicate. They can download consciousness into like a chip and then put it in somebody else's body, and so rich people could pretty much live forever. But it was this whole social dynamic, this really cool future that they'd built. Just such a well-made show, and I believe it only had one season, two seasons. Yeah,
it had two seasons because the fact you could replace your body, the character of the first season, although played by Joel, ended up becoming played by Sam. I'm thinking Sam Wilson. What's his name? Anthony Mackie. Yeah. So it was cool that it was like, it's the same character though, but it's just different body completely. And that's
and it shows the time.
You could have jumped. It
shows the time jump every once in a while where he was younger. He was like an Asian guy or something like that. And it's like, you have to have in your mind like that's the same person, right. Just different host, different body.
Yeah, because then he finds his sister, and it takes a second to realize that's his sister. But then when you look back, they're both look the same, and it's like, oh, that's right. Yeah. That's a good show.
It's such a good show. Yeah. What about you?
The Orville. I think.
Oh yeah.
More people about.
Are they still trying that? Isn't that they're still pushing that train, right?
Inklings at season 4. It's going to be happening. So, but it's one of those things where it's like for people who are interested in Star Trek, whatever. It's so funny to say like you don't have to watch Star Trek. You can watch Orville, and it'll get you into Star Trek because it's the parody of it, and it's super appreciated.
It's the gateway drug.
Yeah, it reminds me of Galaxy Quest in that way too. Where like if you like Star Trek movies, watch Galaxy Quest. And
it very much has that type of humor. I love
they're working on making another one. I was just watching an interview with one of the cast members, and they were saying that they actually planned on making a sequel to the movie before Alan Rickman died. And then they were like, well, we can't do that. So now they're making a series, but it'll be a whole new cast and stuff like that. It won't be the same cast, which is a shame. But you have to do what you got to do. But what's interesting is at the convention in Las Vegas, that's the big one, the big Star Trek convention, they aired Galaxy Quest at the convention itself. It's so embraced by the community. I freaking love that. That's a really cool feature.
Yeah, that's cool, man. Exciting.
Yeah, heading over to Threads where we posted this, we've got Ari Junker says The Middleman. I've never even heard of that. So these are all things we get to look up, guys. Dr. Steve Muppet Man. God, that's a great name. Says Blood and Treasure is one that most people hardly know. It ran on the CBS and moved over to Paramount. So Blood and Treasure. That sounds hella familiar. I think I'm gonna. And then this is a great one. Oh God, Jonathan. Jack of All Trades from early 2000s, where Bruce Campbell played on it. That was so good. You got to check that out, guys. If you liked kind of those early 2000s adventure shows, Xena, Hercules, like 1990s. This is kind of an after effect of those. Really good. Warrior That's Centaur cool. World Mythic Quest on my block. Oh, those are all different. Okay. Mythic Quest is what I'm going to be watching because it's an Apple show. And I'm like, okay, time to start going through my Apple catalog. I've been putting Mythic Quest aside. That's on the list. You say,
that's by the Always Sunny guy, right? What's his name?
Yeah, Mac.
McElhenney.
Rob McElhenney is his really Mac from Always Sunny.
Okay.
Yeah, that's from quite a draw stuff. And then I'll do one more here. We have Kip Kohler that says Foundation. And I've always heard great things about Foundation and about the books too. Check this out, guys. We have here we go. Here's another one. Gio was here. I have to agree with this too. DuckTales from 2017. The newer DuckTales is actually quite good, but people don't give it a chance because it doesn't look like the old DuckTales. But it is actually very good. So check that out. Bunch of good ones on Threads. If you guys need something new to watch, that's good stuff. Before we get into the news, actually, I want to say thank you everybody for the animal shelter donations. We've learned a lot on how to do donations. This year we tried to do it to where it was online, where people could donate online, and that worked easier for us. But also, like, it was less engagement to the actual shelter itself. So there's things we learn every year when we do one of these, and we've learned a lot of things. And I appreciate your guys' donations, and to think of all the dogs and stuff like that are currently eating dog food that you guys paid for, or cats that you guys helped. That's pretty amazing. I love that when you could kind of think of the impact you just had. So I appreciate that. And in that same vein, we have a lot of people, we've interviewed a lot of friends of the show that are down in LA. We all wish them well. I've been reaching out to them, DMing them on Instagram, and so far everybody seems to be doing okay. We wish the very best for you guys. This is just such a tragedy. And the highlights to this is seeing the people come out and support each other. And I think let's make sure we reflect on that.
You transitioned from talking about pets to the fires in LA without mentioning we're talking about fires in LA. I'm sure everybody knows what's going on down there, but
yeah. You're right. I'm sorry. Thank you. I was just thinking of going from helping other people and then also talking about in the fires of LA, how people are helping each other and stuff like that. So there's all kinds of, we're going to link to the charities below that you guys, if you guys want to donate to some of the firefighters and stuff like that down there. They're in the description. You guys want to link if you guys want to go there and help donate to that too. But luckily, everybody that we interviewed from LA is in good health right now, so that's amazing. I'm happy to hear that. That's me. All right, now let's go ahead and get into the news, Jonathan. We're going to start off with our boy Jason Momoa is officially going to be playing Lobo for Supergirl, Woman of Tomorrow. This is rumored a while back. Now it's official. And to me, I think this is perfect casting. He just feels like Lobo. What do you think?
Yeah, so I don't remember Lobo. I remember you've even talked about him, told me about him. I don't remember him from the old series and stuff, but yeah, just by looking at the pictures, it's like, oh well, yeah, that's Jason Momoa. Somebody drew him. Maybe he was a teenager at the time or something like that, but they already thought of him when they made the art. But that's the best when you have an actor who wants to play the character, and a character who fits the actor, and they mash together well, right? Well,
even Jason thought he was going to play Lobo in the first DC stuff. So when he goes in to do some speaking with the directors and stuff like that with Snyder, and he's like, you guys want me to play Lobo? I get it. And then they call him back and oh no, you're gonna play Aquaman. They're like, what? Aquaman's this blonde dude, and they explained no, we're gonna do this Polynesian blend. And he's like, okay, that does sound cool. But he always expected he'd be playing Lobo, and now here he is. Do you remember the Superman cartoon? That's where I was introduced to Lobo.
I remember watching it, but I don't remember him as a character in it.
Yeah. Just he's a bounty hunter that rides a motorcycle through space. Again, very Jason Momoa. That just sounds like you do.
Isn't there a character kind of like that in Men in Black in 3 or 4 or something like that?
3, yeah, yeah, kind of the same vibe actually. Yeah.
Okay, that kind of popped in my head all of a sudden.
Yeah,
I don't remember his name either.
No, but he's played by Jeremy Clement. That's a good role. But yeah, so this one's gonna be for the Supergirl, Woman of Tomorrow, and he is a villain, and he's not the main villain in it. He will be I think what they're setting him up to be is a reoccurring villain, kind of a Loki for the MCU. That'll pop up here and there. Anytime you have a galactic thing, maybe you'll hear a motorcycle randomly coming up behind you, and it's just Lobo doing his thing. I like that they're setting up these characters that can interplay across other movies without forcing this connection like we see in the MCU.
Yeah. As much as I liked Endgame and all a lot of the Marvel movies, when they build up these characters to be the biggest and best and most badass of their world, and then all of a sudden you put them all shoulder to shoulder and they're equal, it kind of just plays them all down. It doesn't. Yeah, I don't think it brings them all up so much. So you got to be careful how much you interconnect characters. It's good, especially for little cameos or if plot points thread together and the city's being destroyed at the same time as it was from another movie or something like that. But to have them fighting and showing their strengths together, it means, there's 37 really strong superheroes. That's a lot, that's different than I thought. I thought it was just one Superman. He was the god of our planet kind of thing. So it changes how we perceive, or how I perceive, the power of that one hero. Yeah. So, yeah, we got to be careful how much we mix them up.
That's a great point. But it does make the world more alive and more believable. I think that's one thing with Marvel that they struggle with is we talk about, you actually just referenced it, I think for pressing record, like Tony built that in a cave, that line.
Exactly.
When you look back at that first Iron Man, it was so basic. This guy built something in a cave and all of a sudden he's super strong. And now aliens have attacked multiple times and literally gods walk amongst us, and so it's hard to do that power scaling. And then when you try to introduce somebody, like when they had with the Eternals, well, let's introduce the Eternals. And the first question, where were they during Thanos? The first question anybody asks, and you have to address that because, what were they? Are these heroes that we're supposed to root for? Why did they help us? And so I think something with like this, when it's like, if you had a Thanos type situation, it's like, they all helped at that moment, and these are the ones that survived that fight. It makes the world a little bit more believable, a little more alive. It's interesting. It's like they're starting their version of the MCU, a few Avengers in already.
Yeah.
Something different.
I like that amount of tying them together where you don't really have to interact with that character. You just need a little seed to know that they're in that world with you.
Yeah.
It's pretty cool.
It's great. All right, let's move on to the next thing here. We're going to be talking about Jim Carrey. Sonic 4 is already being discussed. It's already, people talking 2026. And Jim Carrey says he's on board with returning. It's a trip to me because he said he wanted to retire not long ago.
Yeah,
and
I love to see that he looks like he's having fun with this whole kind of getting back into acting and really, playing a role that I think he excels in.
He does. It's funny that who would have thought Dr. Robotnik, that chubby guy from the video games, and he just has fun with it. You're right. And he says he's on board with returning with this, which the end of Sonic 3, no spoilers for anybody, but you're like, how is he going to return to this? But it's a video game bad guy. They always come back. And we got the hints that Metal Sonic is going to be the next kind of thing to be introduced, which is such a cool character, Metal Sonic. I remember drawing him a lot in school. What do you think about Jim Carrey kind of coming back? He's doing these long rests now, he says, instead of full on retiring, he's just going to rest. And he's only picking roles he likes. So
I think that's great.
Yeah.
If you can afford to do that, that's everybody's dream, right? I'll work when I want to, when I find something that really, brings out that passion in me. And then when that's not ready, I'll hang out. I'll work on little side projects or whatever. But when somebody comes up with an idea that I'm really passionate about, then I'll run with it. And he's working in an area that a wide audience can enjoy his movies and stuff. It's not like real fringe or horror movies or something like that. So I think it's like ideal situation, especially new actors that are just getting started. They can't afford to do that. They need to act in every commercial they can get and stuff like that. But he's a veteran who's, a master in his trade. So he can probably afford to just take what he wants and leave the rest.
I know he's really into art too. He does a lot of artwork and stuff like that. So that's kind of what he's doing in his off time. And I keep seeing interviews where they're like, well, would you come back for the Mask? A Mask of a reboot or whatever. Or would you come back to play Dumb and Dumber again? And he's like, if it's the right script, hell yeah, I would. Like that, we haven't seen that before out of another actor. Yeah. We've always seen that no, I'm done with that. Or they come back and the movie sucks. Not to throw shade at Beetlejuice probably could have been better. I think we could all agree on that. Like the ending was kind of unsatisfactory. But I like how Jim Carrey's like, make it a good movie and then I'll come back. And it's like, please, everybody follow that path. Liar Liar was a good one of his too, actually. And
I could see them doing another one of those.
Actually, they kind of did. Remember Yes Man? I forgot about that movie.
Oh yeah,
that's
true. That was the same kind of
vibe,
vein, anyways.
But yeah, so Sonic 3, we're gonna be talking about it more in the future, and we'll do like a review for it. That's one of those Christmas movies kind of came out during the Christmas time when we're all on break. But we'll discuss it later on. It won't be in this episode, but later. And then while we're on the subject of actors retiring, stuff like that, Tom Holland did a great interview in Men's Health. And I'm not the guy, I know when you look at me, you're like, oh, Frank, obviously you subscribe to Men's Health. They talk to Tom Holland. I'm
like, subscribe. You write articles for him, right?
Of course. This is how much you go on the treadmill, guys. Oh, man. I distract myself so much with TV shows and TikTok on the treadmill just to try to convince myself I'm not on the treadmill.
Right. Just ignore the rest of us and pay attention to the screen.
Yeah.
My knees aren't yelling at me right now.
Yeah. Gasping for air. So Tom Holland's on Men's Health talking about his acting career and what he plans on doing for his mental health. And he's really been open about his mental health. And he talks about how he plans on retiring as soon as he becomes a dad.
That's brilliant. So there's the first, especially they talk about the first 5 years of the peak development of your child. And then it's still the young years. You're only a parent for maybe 18 years out of your life. And then they're gone completely. But really the first 12 or so is when you're playing with a child
Yeah.
and shaping and molding them, So if you can afford to stay home and be a full-time parent, again, you can have hobbies, you can find things that interest you, and you could take on passion projects. If you want to work in a certain role for a while, that's fine. Work for a couple months out of the year and then spend the rest of the time with your family. But if you're going to choose a time to spend not working, why wait until you're 70 years old and you're spending it sitting in a chair watching TV? Spend that time now, if you can afford to enjoy your family while they're young. That's the best case scenario. I think that's awesome that he's able to do it and willing to do it and willing to speak about it. How, it's not only because he can afford to do it, but to invest in his own mental health and probably the wellness of his family. So that's awesome.
And he's in a lot of stuff right now. So he's he's filling out his filmography quite a bit right now. Of course, we all know him as Spider-Man. And the idea that he says also in this interview, whenever Zendaya has a movie, he doesn't like to go on the red carpet because it becomes about him and asking like, when's this next Spider-Man coming out? So he avoids that. He'd rather be at home to make sure that it's her movie. What a partner move. You know what I'm saying? I'm sure there's
what a level of respect.
Right. And like staying out of her way and then knowing in the future, hey, she could keep acting. I'll be the stay-at-home dad and let her keep acting. They just got engaged. That happened over the holiday break as well. And what's it called? Paranormal relationships, whatever, when you kind of like feel like celebrities that don't know you or whatever. This might be one of them for me where I'm like, I genuinely am rooting for this couple so much just because they seem so real and stuff like that. And it's MJ and Spider-Man too. It doesn't hurt. So I'm really happy for him.
Yeah, I think that's awesome.
And he also mentions in this interview, it's a really good interview, and we'll link to it on the website, of course. He's been sober since January 2022, not because he felt like he was drinking too much. He just decided, dry January, I'm going to try it out. Let me not drink it. He's like, God, I feel so good. Let me just keep doing this. And now he's been sober this whole time. It's an interesting move to like not feel like you have a problem, but realize that, it's better for my health anyways.
Yeah, that's actually, imagine if more people did that, like not waiting until you have the problem to fix it. Like, you don't, I can't think of another thing to, you don't wait until you're bald to start using treatment for your hair to keep it. Once you're bald, it's gone. It's not happening again.
Yeah.
You don't have to wait until you're wrapped around a telephone pole in your car to realize like, man, I've been drinking too much. Like, what if you just realize I don't need to drink? Let's just cut it out for a while and see how it feels. And I've heard from a lot of people that, not drinking just kind of across the board, your health improves so much. You just feel so much better. So, and he'll probably get back into acting someday, spend 10 years with your family and maybe these odd roles in between or something like that. And people are going to be chomping at the bit, try to get him signed on for something else, with his success he's having now. But I think it's a great idea to just try to spend that time home with your family if you can.
Looking at the Marvel role alone, I think about Tobey Maguire. Like if you told me 5 years ago, oh, Tobey Maguire will come back as a Spider-Man and then will be in play. I never would have thought that's possible. And now 5 years ago, actually, it was probably about 4 years ago that movie came out. That's how time flies. Oh my God. But now he's in play. And now Andrew Garfield is talking about Andrew Garfield doing a new movie and Spider-Man 4. And he says it's not happening, but nobody believes him. It's amazing how once you join a community like that, it reminds me of like the old Disney actors. You're not ever gone. And the fans always want to see you kind of be active in the community. Not front and center. We understand you want to take the time off, but I expect to see Spider-Man pop up in a Secret Wars, something like that in the future. So don't go too far, Hey, before we go any further, actually, I want to mention Magic Mind. I'm talking about Magic Mind all the time, obviously. But this time they have something new. It's a sleep elixir that helps you sleep. Couple of benefits here. We got no melatonin, so you get more of a natural sleep. It's non-habit forming, so I know you're worried about, taking too much sleep stuff and then getting dependent on it. Not the case with this. You sleep faster with better quality, meaning you wake up refreshed. You know how you like 2 o'clock, you're needing that coffee, you're already yawning. Well, if you get a good night's sleep, that's not a big deal. So I'm going to be trying this out. I'll let you guys know how it affects me if you'd like to try it out with me. They're having this 45% off bundle that comes with the regular Magic Mind mental performance and the sleep elixir. You can go to the link in the description or go www.magicmind.com/freaksjan. So it's in January, guys. So magicmind.com/freaksjan. If you want to get this, again, 45% off for both together. Check it out, guys. Get a better night's sleep with me. I will keep you updated on how this goes.
So one other announcement we got is that they're talking about rebooting Holes, the old movie. That was such a classic movie. I can't remember if it was the 90s. I think it was early 2000s that came out,
Early
right?
2000s, I think, yeah.
Yeah, such a good movie. So they're talking about maybe doing a reboot of it, but not like telling the same. Well, it'd be more or less the same story, but it'd be a gender swap roles.
Yeah.
So it'd be about a girls' camp who's doing the same thing where they're like pretty much a prison camp, honestly. But they have to dig these holes and try to find this treasure. Or this what they call it? Not enrichment, but building character. I think.
Yeah.
You're just gonna dig holes and it helps build character. But I mean, and honestly, a long day of work for a kid is a good way to put out the fires of mischievousness. But
generally, that's like a productive work, not digging holes. That was kind of the MacGuffin of the whole thing. Was like, I understand if we were like, whatever, cleaning up weeds, yeah, but just randomly digging holes.
But yeah, that's to be pretty cool. What do you think?
So I never read the book, but I did actually order a used copy of the book, so I'll be reading the book just so I kind of have a little bit better idea about this story. But this movie kind of came out of nowhere for me. I really enjoyed it. It was super good. I've seen it plenty of times since then, but it's one of those movies where it was like, who the hell had this idea to make this a movie, and it ended up working out well. I can't remember his name. The younger kid's he's like on a lot of stuff right now. He's a streamer and stuff. Of the two main actors. And of
I
course,
see him on TikTok a lot.
Exactly.
He played Zero. I don't remember the actor's name.
Yeah, Zero. There we go. Wait for that.
Yeah.
What do you think about the gender swap part? What are the benefits to that?
Yeah, I think that's fine, but I don't think it's necessary.
Yeah.
You could retell the story with the same, genders. I think people like to see women and girls on TV more now than before. And I know back in the day and still somewhat today, but there was and is still sexism where people didn't want to see women in the same roles as men. Women couldn't be pilots and stuff like that for so long, and military and all kinds of stuff. So I think once we kind of broke that barrier, it was, hey, what else can we get women in? And we're getting to a point where it's like everything that, like the Ghostbusters, they're trying to switch everything over from male characters to female. And I think there's plenty of opportunities to do that where it makes sense and where it's a better fit. But I don't think we need to do that just because we can. I mean, just do it where it's a good fit. But it might turn out that it's a better story that way. I guess we'll have to wait and see. But like Ghostbusters, I was kind of excited. I was like, oh, that'll be interesting. See it, with all female characters, and then it wasn't any better.
No. I like those actors too. They're all SNL alums and stuff like that or whatever, but it just did not do well. And then luckily Ghostbusters kind of did this afterlife thing. And now we found a new version of old version of Ghostbusters that respects the old version instead of trying to just totally reboot it. But with this, the thing I'm pulling from a lot is there's that subplot that kind of becomes like where the treasure's found. About, remember that the teacher falls in love with the guy, and remember that's all in the Old West subplot for this movie.
Oh yeah, in the past, yeah.
Now, what if that's like an inspirational story for a new generation of girls? Because that's all about a girl becoming a outlaw, or whatever, to get revenge and stuff. So maybe there's something there where they could use that as an inspiration for a new generation of women, and that's where the gender swap actually has more value than the original version.
So in that situation, the genders would be swapped also because kissing Kate Bartlow was a female.
Oh, God damn. Good job on remembering the name. Damn.
Yeah. It just starts trickling back in now that we're talking about it.
I kind of want to watch the movie again, to be honest with you. But what if she's inspiring to the girls in a way that she wasn't inspiring to, even Steven. God damn it, names.
Shia LaBeouf.
Jonathan, you're on top of it.
So you would say like they go to this camp because they got in trouble, but at this camp they use these stories of this cowgirl in the Wild West, pretty much, to inspire these girls to be criminals or to be
because that's
better than they are.
They're trying to figure out where she hid all the money, and that's why they find that bullet and stuff like that, and it's got her name on it and stuff. It's going to be so excited. So that all could still be standing, but then the story that's being
lipstick case.
Yeah, Jonathan, you're on top of it. But all of that also could lead to like them learning about her and learning how she, took her own.
Okay. So not intentionally by the staff, but the girls would hear these stories. Exactly. This is the ghost stories at night. Is how she turned on society or whatever against the man, rose up against the man, and a woman took power. I gotcha.
Yeah,
that's a really good angle. Yeah, that's a good idea.
Especially when you think like Sigourney Weaver thinks of her as just the place to find treasure, and the girl's like, no, the treasure is learning her story. That kind of thing,
So would you swap the staff
No.
genders too?
No, I'd keep the
Sigourney,
staff.
you
I
want
want
a
to
female
get
lead?
Sigourney Weaver back. I think she was the best casted actor from the first one. She did such a good job of playing that, like, because remember the first for the majority of the movie, she's seen as almost like likable and like, oh, she's on the side of the kids, and then he's like, no, she's running the staff.
Yeah, I think that's a good idea too. And when you have a camp full of girls, if you have, I don't think it'd leave a good taste in people's mouths if you have a man running the camp and he's also like, holding his foot on their neck kind of thing, like he's pushing these kids down and or not necessarily abusing them, but taking advantage of their labor. I think that dynamic would play out better if it's a woman camp director with, girls versus a man doing it. I don't know.
Yeah.
People already don't like men in charge anymore.
Well, not just that. I get that. But not just that, but also, the dynamics of like these are little girls, don't go yelling at them. It's a little bit easier to bite when it's women yelling at them, I guess. Just like,
well, that's like their mom punishing them, not like, their dad's going to hit them kind of thing.
Yeah, there's something, it's difficult, but
less harsh.
I personally don't feel like we needed to do the gender swap, but I'm trying to find like where there's value. And I think that specific situation I found value in. Either way, I'm happy for a new generation to learn about the story. It's a great show or story. And so like I said, I bought the book. I'll read the book. It's really short. And then, see if there's anything else.
I do think too, in these kind of stories, at least now, I don't know, everything's always evolving, but the situation of like a boy getting in trouble, being a little hellraiser or whatever, has been told so many times, and that's kind of expected now that boys will be boys get in trouble, right? But to see an innocent, sweet little angel girl who's pickpocketing on the streets and stuff like that, that is everybody likes to see that now. I think like even we see a lot of video games where it's like an edgy little steampunk girl who can engineer things or whatever, and she's stealing and rising up against the man. That's a dynamic I think a lot of people like to hear now. So I think this would sell pretty good.
Before it was breaking the mold, now it's becoming a new version of the stories that we liked. A great call out on that is Skeleton Crew. Fern, who's kind of the four kids, Fern's like that one that's like the pseudo captain of the four kids. And that would be a role that like back in the 80s probably swapped over. Even KB is kind of like the second in command, who's also, the girl of the group. And Win, the boy of the group, is the one that has all the, is discovering relationship with his father and stuff like that. And Neil is the one that's kind of the like, I'm scared, guys. I love me some Neil.
Yeah, that's true. The genders are definitely swapped there because back in the day, back in the 90s, whatever, the girls would have been the ones that are fumbling around, not sure where they're going, kind of getting lost or causing the next problem that they have to try to fix and stuff like that, where the boys would be taking the lead and like, follow me, we're going to get out of here. That's totally opposite in Skeleton Crew.
Yeah.
And I like that. That's cool.
Yeah, and it's just showing that like it doesn't have to be so disruptive to do that. Back in the 90s, I remember very well, Lunchbox from Little Giants was such a different character because it was the girl that was, she's mean and she plays football like us. And it was like such a new character. And it's like, that shouldn't have to be so new. And maybe
those people exist around us all the time.
Yeah. We have cousins that would beat my ass. I know not to mess with Julia.
Right. She'll cut a bitch.
She'll cut. Man, speaking of Julia, this reminds me of a good story. Just a good story to me. I've always been kind of like, I don't want to talk shit online. I'm just not that. I don't want to do that. And so I'd play a game called Juiced. If you guys remember, Juiced was a racing game where you could race for pink. So it was a big thing for it.
I remember that.
And so I would have her, she'd sit next to me. I'd play the video game and would do good. And she would sit there and talk shit on the mic. And so she'd be like, get ready, bitches. Like yelling next to me. And I'm just like, I hope I win because, man, she's really setting me up. That was her one job, was just to talk smack to the kids on Juiced. Oh, what a game.
I remember that. That was funny.
So anyways, guys, Holes, I look forward to this. It's going to be really good.
Yeah.
I think our last bit of actual news before we get into reviews is, and we'll discuss this one too. Sony revealed 2 movies that they're working on, Horizon Zero Dawn and Helldivers 2. These are, big games for them, of course, and they're really leaning on Horizon Zero Dawn. They don't let that one fade. They really think it's a good future for them. You haven't played either of those games. I know that. You're not a PlayStation guy.
No.
But are you familiar with what those worlds look like?
Not really. Yeah. Just a couple pictures I've seen here and there, but I love the idea of more video game movies. We've seen success and want to keep that going, keep the trend going.
Well, it's like we figured out how to do a video game adaptations, and once we figured that out, it's like, okay, boom, go guys. There's a lot of stories out there.
Yeah, there's so much material.
Which it's funny, like the trick was who would have thought was to just do the actual story from the video game. Every time it's successful, it's like just do The Last of Us. It's like literally got the same shots from the video game. That's fine.
Yeah. Right.
But okay, so let's look at these games. Helldivers is a game where it's planetary conquest throughout an entire galaxy, and there are
Kinda like Halo/Dune. Worlds, right?
Well, it's funny that it's actually a lot of Starship Trooper. Do you remember Starship Trooper?
Okay, yeah.
There's like a bug out there that's a big problem, and so they have to push back. There are other people out there, but I think the bug's gonna be the main thing. So for a lot of people, this is gonna feel like a Starship Trooper reboot. And for those of you guys who don't remember, Starship Trooper is a like kind of a, what is it called? A metaphor, an allegory for fascism. And a lot of Helldivers is that way, where it's just like they joke around all the time, like for democracy, and then they like blow up a planet, and stuff. That overdoing it. So I think this is like such a good time to do a Starship Trooper type movie, Helldivers movie, where it's just being like for Earth, and then like annihilate everybody, and then the point, like at the end of Starship Trooper, and I remember I have friends that don't get that part of the story, where like they beat back the aliens and they get to like the mother alien on the planet or whatever, and then they could feel pain, or they could like read its mind. They read its mind, it's like, it's afraid of us, it feels pain, and then they all celebrate, and it's like, that's the problem, guys. You're supposed to realize that. And I think Helldivers is going to do a good job of that, kind of showing that like the satirical side of like over militarized, over powerful and stuff. It'll be fun.
Jesus.
I don't know how they could they got to portray that well though, but yeah, it'll be a blast.
Yeah. That sounds funny though.
Over on the Horizon Zero Dawn front, that's a post-apocalyptic world. It's far into our future. We live in tribes now. It's in the United States. It's not really considered United States anymore, but that's where it's actually at. And this young girl finds a little earpiece that you can put in, and it gives you a heads-up display that shows her like kind of how we have our GPS systems and stuff like that. And it still works. And in this world, they tried to like fix the climate, and in doing that, created like robotic life, like literally life that can kind of go to birth and stuff like that. They find out where they're being birthed from, but they're dinosaurs. There's a lot more, for the most part, there are other creatures as well, but like dinosaurs that are all robots. So she ends up going through the path, like in number 2, I think is a really good story, where she's going through the path to try to restart the system that they first put in place to fix the climate that would actually like reboot humanity and actually like spread technology and stuff like that. And she knows things that nobody else knows because she has a heads up display that shows the future. Like she can literally say like, oh, this road used to be called San Francisco Drive, but nobody else knows that. And then you find out that there's a cult that also has these heads up displays. So it's just this really cool kind of futuristic world, but you have these gigantic vistas, and like the sequel takes place, a lot of the beginning is like in these Utah's Zion Park, whatever it's called, beautiful vistas. So it's a way of like, not all post-apocalyptic movies and shows have to be downers, so dark and dystopian. Sometimes just the technology's gone and like nature came back. That'd be beautiful to see.
So there's who's the antagonist? Is it just these? Well, you said there's these dinosaur robots and these cult people.
The dinosaur robots are like the problem, but not the villain.
Okay.
The villain is like a cult that's trying to like use the technology that they could still find here and there to hold power over people. And she's like, no, we could use this to restart the systems and free people, and make sure there's food supplied all the time and stuff like that.
That's cool. Are the dinosaurs like Transformers where their technology can change all the time, or is it when they grow into
No, you find out that there were like
technology?
these big facilities built into the earth that just like pump these dinosaurs out, and it's like there's certain blueprints that are like, these are only, and sometimes they're deer, like it's not just dinosaurs, but dinosaurs are like the poster child.
Trying to replicate life, but out of technology.
Yes. Yeah. And that system went haywire. So if like that, they could actually create life there or something like that, it'd be a little more helpful. Yeah.
That's interesting. Yeah, that sounds really good.
So
I'll watch it for sure.
Sony's really pushing into Hollywood. And I think that the idea of them embracing the movie or the entertainment business is such a good idea because they have so many really good stories. Like The Last of Us was a really good example of that. Is there any other company you feel like should be pushing more, any video game company you think should be pushing more into Hollywood? Like
honestly, I can't think of a video game that wouldn't make a decent adaptation, because all these video game stories, they're kind of, how long it takes to make a game. So the story gets flushed out so thoroughly. It's not like, they just threw together a script. And if you play a game and you like it, it gets the reaction of the fans and it sells. So the games that we could think of were the good stories, and the ones that we forgot about were the bad ones. one that I talk about all the time, and I think is always makes a good story is Portal. We both played it, loved it, and it was just, it's a person kind of trapped in this research lab that's ran by robots pretty much and trying to find a way out. I think it would make an awesome movie, or even more so a series would be cool.
Yeah.
But
the nice thing about that one too, by the way, is they don't tell you everything. You have to discover it.
Yeah.
And the little nuanced moments and stuff like that makes for a great series. I think with the success of Fallout, let's go back to Bethesda and let's do an Elder Scrolls. Do a full fantasy world with Tamriel, and
that would be big though, right? That'd be building a new Game of Thrones or Lord of the Rings type world, right?
Oh yeah. And start with the earlier days when there's not a lot of dragons around, so you could save on the CGI. But like I think the Oblivion story with like the Hell Gates opening up, which Sky Oblivion, by the way, guys, the remaster version of Oblivion that's all fan made, should be out this year. I just saw an update from them. They're making some really good progress on that, but. That's such a great story to tell, and you could bring in amazing actors because remember that, like even in that game itself, Patrick Stewart's the king, and Sean Bean plays like the next potential king, which is Ned Stark himself. But we could have things where you run into a town and you're helping people out, and you could have really cool stars in that, tell really good stories. The side quests are really important, and just totally build the world of Tamriel. And then you could keep telling stories, do spinoffs, do different movies, all within the world of Tamriel with the certain set rules of. Hey, this is what dragons look like. These are what dragonborn are. These are what the different races are. Dwarves used to exist. There's some amazing technology that they used to have. Like, I love that idea of like, let's build a world kind of like how they do with Game of Thrones, where like you could do spinoffs of Game of Thrones. They just all have to exist in Westeros, and these are the rules of Westeros. I think that would be a good move. And then Bethesda, they've built it out so well that I think they could just keep going with it and just tell those stories.
Do you think you could tell those stories in the confines of a movie, though, or do you think they would have to be like HBO series?
I think a series, of course. I think, let's be honest, guys. I think nowadays a series does better every time now. Yeah. I have a hard time thinking of, like you have to be really punchy, like a Mad Max, to not do better as a series.
I think what could do good in movies is things that are like a bottle episode where you can have a short arc and contain it from beginning to end in a movie. But nowadays, if we want these big elaborate tales with changing characters and a lot of growth and stuff like that, you pretty much have to put it in a series to fit so much in a movie. You end up chopping a lot of it out and condensing it down to fit, people don't want to sit in 3-hour movies like they used to be willing to. They want an hour and 40 minutes and then that's it. So it's like, gosh, you can't tell a whole story. You can't really develop a character in that time now.
You know what? One of my favorite movies of the last 5 years, especially unexpected, was Dungeons and Dragons. And that's the way you could do it. And, maybe even like just ditch Elder Scrolls altogether and just focus on the world of Faerun or whatever you want to call it, the Forgotten Realms, and do more Dungeons and Dragons. But that was the whole thing where it was like, we don't need to tell you all the details about the world around you. We're just going to throw you in it, and then you're going to discover it as you go along. That movie was so well done. And that's a good way to do it.
Yeah. And I think that it was more fun for the fans too, where they're not really you're being spoon fed plenty, but there's a lot around you to discover, to realize, to recognize as you watch it and learn. And then, you might see, this magical, creature or whatever in the background a few times, and they don't become relevant until, the third movie or, the fourth episode or whatever it is.
Yeah.
But then you're like, oh yeah, I recognize that. That's part of the world. And then you learn about it in more detail later.
I think that might be one of the better adaptations. That'll be a top 5. Well, we got to do more top 5s. So we always say that 2025, one of the podcast goals, more top 5s, but best adaptations. And I would have to put that one in there. Because as a DM, when I watch that movie, there are times where I'm like, oh, I got to remember the way he like cast spells through sand and stuff like that. I can make that a trope here and there somewhere. Yeah, that's a good one. Okay.
We should have the fans submit their requests for or suggestions for specific top 5 picks or whatever.
That's a good idea. Yeah.
Because we can go all day picking different top 5s, but there's a lot
and
of
the
options.
key too is I want to be able to post it like a week in advance so people could put their top 5 in and we could share it on the podcast.
Yeah.
Then they're part of the conversation.
There you go.
All right, let's touch in real quick with we're gonna do a full review next week. Squeaks has already tapped in on that. With Marvel Rivals, they got season 1 that just came out, and I've been playing it like a fiend, trying to get good at it. You've been playing some Marvel Rivals. What are your thoughts on the game?
Yeah, it's a great game, a lot of fun. It feels exactly like you said. It feels exactly like Overwatch. But it is hard to, even in Overwatch, I was not really good at anybody. There's just a couple characters that I could kind of survive as.
Yeah.
So still the same thing. I really am not good with anybody, but I mostly play as Punisher. But yeah, I'm just trying to keep my head above water. I'm still not good, but I need, more practice. Practice makes perfect.
And you got to play with the rest of us too, because then we kind of like help out here and there and make sure it's the right comp for you.
Mhm.
I play mostly by myself here and there. Like I'll do a quick couple pickup games while in between of doing two different things. But there have been times where it's like me, Squeaks, Thomas, Sammy, we're all on together. And that's a different vibe, and it's a lot of fun where it's kind of like blaming Squeaks for things and stuff. So it's great. But yeah, so we have season 1 that just came out, and that's all themed around Dracula's invading New York. We find out that from a leak that he put Blade away, so Blade can't stop him this time. And the Fantastic Four are fighting to hold him off. So we have two of the first Fantastic Fours, Mr. Fantastic, Reed Richards, and Sue Storm, the Invisible Woman, have joined Marvel Rivals. I've been trying to practice Sue Storm because I usually do get stuck with being a healer. And it's just really good. The new patch comes out, the new maps come out, the new characters come out, seamless, no problems at all. I was literally on by chance because I was working on other things. It's like, oh shit, it's midnight and the game's coming out. The new patch coming out. It ended up coming out at 1 a.m. So I played it. It was like no problem. I've played so many games that will wait for the midnight release and there's bugs. Nothing.
Yeah.
It was super clean.
That's awesome.
And then some of the updates they did to like characters, like they buffed certain characters, weakened certain characters. And in doing that, I've seen a lot of people like, wait, they buffed that, they nerfed this. Oh, we're playing this character wrong. And I love that. People are like, so they actually wanted us to focus on this aspect of that character, which makes this thing stronger. And like people are discovering this game in new ways.
Yeah, that's cool.
It's amazing to see in the Shadow of Overwatch. I hate to bring Overwatch into this so much, but there was a big problem with they're not listening to the player base. And boy, NetEase right out of the gate is doing that. And it's nice to see a company do that, knowing that's how you find success in these games.
I could definitely see over the next year tournaments popping up for Rivals as it gets, fleshed out a little bit more.
Well, they're already setting that up actually within game.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, you could apply to do the thing and get into the tournaments already. I don't think I'm good enough for it as much as I'd like to pretend like I am, but
we'll host our own.
There we go.
between ourselves.
I'll be the big boss at the end. You guys have to fight. You have to beat me.
There you go.
So we're going to be playing more of season 1, getting a handle of all the abilities and stuff like that. Squeaks and High will do a review for that later on. You as well if you're there. But so far, it's been a lot of fun. We already talked about Marvel Rivals as a whole. A blast to play. It's got 20 million players in the first 2 weeks. It's taken off like crazy.
Yeah, that's crazy. Yeah.
Let's get into our reviews, and we're going to be talking about Creature Commandos. We're going to keep it spoiler-free because it's to just come out. This is the start of the DCU, James Gunn's DCU. And so there was some big chances, some big moves you had to make. You were not finished with the entire series, but what's your take on Creature Commandos?
Like you said before, it's a lot like the Archer vibe, or you compare it to something else too. But it's good. Venture Brothers. Yeah, it's definitely an adult animation. At first, the first couple episodes, I was like, or the first one episode, I think, I was like, oh, this seems like a tame enough show that I could watch it with my son and not worry. And then I watched the second or third episode. I was like, oh yeah, no, never mind. He can't watch it. But yeah, it's definitely fun. I love the animation style. Reminds me of the 90s Batmans and stuff like that we used to watch. And the story's interesting, dynamic, not too out of the box to be able to grasp, but yeah, I like it so far.
There's a thing too with James Gunn where it's like I can't just assume things are going to go the way I thought they were going to go. And in this case, again, no spoilers, but characters die that you are like, why would you kill that character off? And it's because it's not. If you guys watch Suicide Squad, especially the newer one, the one he did, they advertised that movie with this cast. And then when the movie started, that cast died. And then it's like, oh yeah, the guys that you didn't pay attention to, those are the actual main characters of this show, the movie. And that's kind of the vibe with this. It's just like, man, I hate to see that person die. But then they kind of show like, yeah, but there's more Creature Commandos in the next one. Amanda Waller's constantly needing missions done, and she's just going to keep filling all the monsters into one pot. And you're going to pull this group from that 5 out, and they're going to go do an adventure and come back, and whoever survives, they're added back into the pot. That aspect of this makes it to where we can fall in love with these characters. They could have really impactful one-offs, but they might not always survive. And in this case particular, it's like the people who have the best episodes, and now we're learning, the people who have the best episodes with the most heart are like, this one's not going to survive this episode.
Each great adventure is somebody's swan song, pretty much.
Yeah, which we see a lot of like Survivor and stuff like that. There are some major characters that I hope to see more of. Dr. Phosphorus, very minor character from Batman. He's a Batman villain. But in the end, we actually got a little hint of Batman through his backstory. But when they really fleshed him out as like this guy who was just trying to do his best, once he became the monster, he was like, screw it then. I'm going to be the monster. I'm going to go ahead and become a mob boss. And he took over the mob that messed up his family. He took over that mob and is now fully unhinged. You can't help but like root for him at that point. You're like, yeah, be the bad guy then. And these are all villains. It's a really good start. And it's got that witty writing too that James Gunn's known for, like where it's like it's heart and cool quips and stuff like that I think are hard to balance. But it's James Gunn alone. Anything else you want to mention about Creature Commandos? Trying to keep it spoiler free.
Yeah, no, and you could spoil it for me at least. I know I haven't seen the last couple episodes, but yeah, no, not really. Didn't have any expectations, but I'm liking it so far. Yeah,
there are a lot of twists, and sometimes I felt like the twists might have been a little bit too much. Where it's the whole self-fulfilling prophecy. I always like that storyline when people try to mess with that. But then there's like, yeah, but actually this one was that way, or like, oh, but you learn this. And so I felt like they kind of threw one more in that didn't necessarily need to be thrown in. Okay, I get it. But also that just kind of messed up that relationship that you guys are trying to save through the final couple episodes. So that messed things up. You could actually have sparked a war doing that. There's a lot of unanswered stories that we need to get more from. The Frankenstein and the Bride. He's not dead. We know that it's going to be very hard to kill Frankenstein. But his whole like, whether or not it's love or it's ownership over the bride, I would like to get more, dive more into that relationship and how she tries to diversify herself from him, become somebody that's not considered the bride, which literally shows ownership to Frankenstein, and that's her entire name. There are a lot of characters I do want to see more of. The Weasel, I think, is a fun character, but I don't think they did a good job showing his backstory, like how he's mistaken to be a bad guy. But you can't really flesh him out anymore. But I think it's a good start to the DCU for sure. And these characters are going to pop up in the live action stuff too. Like that's the thing that James Gunn said. Once you're in the DCU, whether it's animated or not, live action or TV show or whatever, you're that character now, and you'll pop up in other ones. So we're interested to see how they explore that.
Yeah, that's cool.
I started the show off with a 10 out of 10 just because it blew me away so much. But after some lulls that happens throughout the show, it had a very strong finish. I'm giving it an 8 out of 10 overall. So strong number, 8 out of 10. I really enjoyed it. I think so far of that, and like always compare concurrently running shows. So it's this and Skeleton Crew. I think I'm liking Skeleton Crew more. And so we'll have that review next week, as that's coming out this week, of course. So we'll have the review next week. But so far, I think Skeleton Crew is going to be up there like 9s. It's that good.
That's another one. I don't think I've seen the newest episode of Skeleton Crew. I'm behind.
Oh man, they did such a good job with the new one with Atten and stuff like that. That's really cool. All right, let's end things off with our recommendations of the week. Jalen, what's your recommendation for the week?
Oh, so I've been watching. I logged into Apple TV.
Yeah.
So I've been watching a lot of Apple TV. So Silo has been great, but it's one episode per week. I binged the Severance, which is coming out. Season 2 is coming out pretty soon next week, which was really good. So if you haven't seen Severance yet, you got time, binge it or rewatch it now before the next season comes out. And then For All Mankind has been so good. I'm I think towards the end of season 2 right now. Just such an awesome show. So if you guys haven't seen, watch all 3 of those.
There you go. Yeah, Apple TV, they did a free weekend to start the year off. And then right now, if you guys like Severance, they're streaming it nonstop on, I want to say Roku, for free. The first season, just kind of repeating the first season over and over again, so you guys can catch it there. And then there's a podcast for it too that they just started with Ben Stiller, who's the director, which is crazy that he's a director, and Adam Scott, who's the main character. And they're reviewing every episode, and then they're going to review all the new episodes as well. So check that out as well, guys. I cannot wait. January 17th. So yeah, we should be able to get a review out for that first episode with that. For me, I'm going to say Balatro. Balatro was a surprise game of the year nomination last year. Everybody's like, what? I mean, like of a game, it's a poker game. So why is this up against like Indiana Jones and like all these really big titles? Well, Balatro just came to the mobile apps as well, so you can play it on your phone. And it's like $10, no ads. You actually buy the game, which is such a refreshing thing. And it's a stand-up game, guys. It's crazy addictive. It's so much more than a card game, but it is a card game. But like you empower cards. It's kind of it's a roguelike RPG. So if you played Hades, something like that, it feels like that more than it feels like poker. Crazy enough. So
That's weird.
yeah, it is very weird. I played it on the mobile app, and then I was like, I like this too much. I'm gonna play it on the PC too. So I bought it on the PC as well. That's how good it is, and it really blew me away. We're talking about it in Discord right now. So Blotcher, guys, $10 for a game that you don't have ads on your phone. It's worth it. Check that out, guys. Yeah. All right. Well, that is it for us this week. Again, guys, links in the description if you guys want to help out with the fires down in LA. We'll have some of the charities down there you can help out with. And we'll see you guys next week. Bye.
Bye.